Sure. I hinted at this before about the overconfident programmer. Specifically, it writes things very confidently that are wrong. So when it gets it wrong, it doesn't get it wrong in an obvious way many times. It's a subtle thing that's wrong with it, and it built that algorithm and it looks great, and that just simply does not work because of some technical reason. So now, I mean, you can talk back to it and say, it died with this error, and it'll say, okay, I'm very sorry. It always apologizes and goes on, and it'll try to correct it and go on. But you really can't take out the person in that loop of keeping an eye on them. It tends to not say, I don't know. It will just forge ahead and make stuff up. And that's a problem across the board, but certainly in engineering. Also, it doesn't take away the need to clarify what you actually want to do. And you still have to define the problem. You still have to work out the business case of why something should be built and make hard decisions. And it can't take away that piece of it. So again, it doesn't make anyone into a programmer, but it can make someone who is a programmer a lot more productive, especially at the higher levels. But it's something to use with a certain level of caution.
Great, thank you. Tanya, what would you say from a corporate learning perspective, maybe even customer success, given that that's your role?
Yeah, I have pretty good insight into both of those and have used it in both realms. I would actually echo almost like verbatim what Clayton has said. So those are still the things that are of concern for both learning and customer success. I think a more unique problem that that I experience on a pretty regular basis when it comes to the generative AI that I use to help me go faster is that often, certainly in the learning space and also with customer success, is the communication that I'm doing and the learning that I'm creating is unique to one specific organization. So all of these models are, being trained on general knowledge that exists on the web and that's out there. But most of business to business interactions are dealing with some kind of product or solution that's unique to that business, and that's why they exist. So when we're, writing learning content, or when we're bringing an organization on and we want to make sure that they're successful, you still have to strategically understand their product or solution and what they're trying to achieve. And the generative AI is not going to be able to, for example, give you point and click instructions on how to navigate like a user interface of a high-tech company that's got their own product or solution that's not, a large company like a Google or a Microsoft that, this generic model would know about. The majority of organizations, these models are not going to know about your product or solution. And so you are going to have to build out your use cases, perhaps your, instructions on how to get the most value. You have to, understand the use cases for your customers. These are things that AI today just can't do because those models don't have your secret sauce. They don't know what you do best. And so it's not going to be able to just automatically generate the content for you because it doesn't know. And that's why, all of you who are attending today, that's why your organizations are who they are and why they're great, because you bring to the table something that doesn't exist. And so, that's where we still absolutely need people in our industries to be able to help our customers go forward and be successful.
Great, thank you. Anu, what would you add to that from a marketing perspective?
Sure. So, when you're looking at some of the free AI tools like, the ChatGPT interface that's available, the one concern that we have as marketers is that we have to be concerned whether the content being generated is legal or ethical. So is it free from, you don't want to be accused of plagiarism, right? So you want to be able to review the content and make sure that you create unique content that is appropriate for your organization. There's also the concern of incorrect information. Coming back to what Tanya said, you need to understand who you're writing for and making sure that the content being generated is correct. So the other issue that I have found with some of these tools is that the content that is being generated can sound unnatural or robotic, right? And I've seen a lot of repetition sometimes. Some of the output is probably in some cases 2 to 3 times longer than is best practices when you're in marketing. So there is a lot of, so the output is great for starting, but I find that I have to spend time to tailor the message so that it's cleaner, it's great user experience, that it is tuned to the tone and message for the organization that I'm writing for. And I don't find right now that a lot of those tools have that customization. I mean, you can say write in a formal tone, write in a casual tone, but it still doesn't take away some of the other issues that I've mentioned earlier. And then finally, the last thing I would say as marketers is that the chat GPT does, or some of these AI tools, they don't have the creativity side of it, right? So it's able to generate based on what's already out there. But if you're looking for something unique, you still need that human person to come in and take inputs and then create their own thing. And so as a marketer, I'm looking for people, and I like working with people who have a lot of creativity, who can take an input and then transform it in their mind into something unique. So AI and AI tools are definitely part of my mix in terms of tools, but it would never replace what I'm doing, because it doesn't have that unique creativity capability.
Right. Great. And Anna, on the academic side, I think a lot of people already know some of the pitfalls, but I'll let you explain what some of those are.
Sure. Well, first of all, you got to realize that different types or areas of learning are impacted differently. So for fields that are more specific and more hands-on, it can just more or less make you more efficient and there's less of an issue. But for areas of knowledge that are creative at the core, those are the areas that are getting hit really hard. I teach in a variety of programs at the college, one of them being professional writing. And at this point, that is, ChatGPT is a major concern, and similar software is a major concern, because there is, well, we're having some software at the college right now that is able to detect plagiarism by comparing various submissions by other students to each other, and then if they're similar enough, the software detects that as plagiarism. As far as generative AI and what that produces, there's been some, efforts to develop that software to pick up on that as well. But it's almost like an arms race of plagiarizing software versus detecting plagiarism kind of software. So there's that concern. So obviously plagiarism, but even beyond plagiarism, authorship concerns in general, citations, citation guides such as APA, and all of the major ones are not yet certain in their guidelines yet. APA has developed some kind of preliminary guidelines, but they haven't finalized exactly what their approach is going to be. At this point, they're suggesting that you quote the AI content and you mentioned the software that generated it, but it's still under construction, what their final approach is going to be, because what is it, right? Like, we can't really categorize AI input. It's not plagiarizing any specific human. It's not taking any, information that you can go back to and refer to and reference in a book that somebody can look up again. So it's really this gray zone that nobody's quite sure of how to deal with copyright. Programs that use, visual stock, stock images and things like that. There's also a gray zone about whether or not AI generated images should be considered, proprietary in any way. What's the copyright situation around that? So overall, I would say that the problem with AI as far as academia is that we as a society haven't defined, authorship and ownership of that information at this point. It just kind of falls in the gray area that nobody's quite sure what to do with. And then also certain areas of knowledge, of learning are becoming, a little bit less relevant as we're able to generate that content in a non-human way.